Okay, so ramps. We'll carry on doing the other bits and pieces in a minute, but we'll just go on to show you some ramps first of all. So when you create a ramp, it normally does just puts this into the middle. Now ramps have a top and a bottom and a width, but we don't really need to worry about this yet, about that. So I always make the widths 60 wide, so it's a bit wider than a ball to give it some room to move. Um, the bottom height and the top height, we don't want to mess around with that yet. So if we make them both 75, which means they're high enough above the playfield to avoid the ball, um, make them flat, which is like a normal plastic ramp. There's other options for wire ramps, but we don't really want to use them, even on wire ramps, unless we're using VPX for them, which we hardly ever do nowadays. Um, so you get the ramp, which is now 75 high across everything. Then we can. So we know this ramp goes all the way around here and does all this sort of stuff. Goes around to there, 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 and comes down to in ramp here. We know it goes a bit weird here, so what we're going to do is we're going to drag it to here. Then, just like we did with the plastics, we can right click on it at any point. And we can add a point. And again, like before, we can make this smooth or not smooth. So, point here. Oop. Control Z is your friend to reset everything. Just go through adding control points everywhere that makes sense, but not too many. You can just sort of overload it with coordinates and other bits and pieces like that when it really doesn't need it. Because you can get a pretty decent shape just by adding a handful. Um, I just like when it comes to a certain point having these straight pieces because you get a little bit weirdness like this on curved areas. You can get it so it's about right like that, but it takes a bit of fiddling. Um, that's got a bit more of a bit. A bit clunky. You can make this super neat later on, but depending if these are going to be visible or invisible physics ramps, if we're going to run this to the toolkit, these are invisible, so you really only need a rough ramp, but for the sake of physics and getting it right, I like to do it properly. So that's your first bit of the ramp, or actually it's the last bit of the ramp because that's the bit that shoots out to the in lane. Like we did before with lining up the plastics, one thing you can do if you want to make it dead straight, which is quite good to control where the ball's coming out and the speed it comes out at the end. I locked it, click on the control point, see it's about 133. If you make them both the same number on the X um, coordinate, yeah, so yeah, on the X coordinate, it makes this bit dead straight. So you know by the when the ball comes to the end, it will be just a dead straight drop into this. This is quite good actually because we can show you how we would deal with something like this. So what you can do here is, yeah, now we want a narrow bit of ramp. So what we'll do is we'll lock this off. Don't need that anymore. Actually, we'll do the end bit because we can show you the whole way through. Um, one thing you can do is if you want to, if you know you want to, we're going to delete that because we clicked the button. If you want to do a load of stuff, then you know are the same. you can element, so you can click it and then click here, set element parameters as the new default. So if you click that, what it means is if you click a new ramp, if you look, this ramp element now has the same height, width, and all the rest of it as this wall. So you don't have to set it every single time. And that's useful for, that's literally counts across for anything from lamps to physics objects to whatever you want it to be. Um, Super handy. I'm not sure how many people know that that exists. So we're going to carry on making this. So I don't get too lost because the ramps cross over each other. Now push this down here. Big sweeping edges so we can position it roughly before we get all detailed. That was right. Okay, so this is the rough shape here. Ooh. And don't worry about this, we'll deal with that in a minute. So, make this an outline so we can see what we're doing. Sharp angles in VPX ramps are not very good, so sometimes we have to really mess around and play with this. So, we've got a bit here which is thinner than the rest. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a ramp, one up. Now one way to make it fit exactly is if you click control point and click copy, click the control point you want to meet it to on the other one and click paste, and then now connect. And then do the same with the other one. Do now though is obviously this is too wide. We don't want that. We're going to make it 30. See, that doesn't work. So maybe we have to do it manually. I was just showing you what you can do there for that bit. Totally didn't forget. So you do this one, outline. It's got an angle to it. Actually comes back a little bit when it does that. It's actually even thinner than that, so it's 25. Side of this. Okay. Not entirely keen with this, but we're doing, oh, I'm not going to spend yonks and yonks and yonks going. Touching. What you can do, you can zoom right in and do it. If you want to do it tiny bits and you're struggling, you can select the control point and then do something like move it across by the actual numbers. So you can do tiny little adjustments using this to get the desired result of where you want to be, if you're being super exact. So lock that off, lock that off. Oh, that's horrible and ugly. I'm not quite happy with that, but yeah, we'll deal with that later. Just because I want to show you what's going on. So you've now got this bit here. What we want though for this one is what VPX lets you do over in physics is assign a physical wall on the left and right hand side. At the moment, we want to get rid of the wall on this side, which you would assume is the right wall, but that's not always correct. So what we can do is we can get rid of the right visible wall. This has got nothing to do with the way the ball acts, the right visible wall. Press F5 to start the table and check it. So if you look there, we've actually got, that is correct. We can see the left wall. And if we go into the live editor, go over to the top, see that, yeah, there is no left wall, so a ball will fall out of there, which is great. And now we know that's the case, the right wall is 0. What we do is we go into the physical wall and we remove the physical wall on the right hand side. So now any ball that goes onto there, which hasn't got enough speed, will fall out here. Because we're assuming that's what the RAM wants us to do. So we've created these, but we've actually mistakenly put them in the main layer. So we'll create a new layer called ramps. I'll call this ramps 1, and you'll see why in a second. Select the ramps you want, click on ramps 1, click on the little finger icon, and it transfers all the ramps over to ramps 1. Okay, now the reason you want to do that is we're now going to make the other ramp. So most pinball games have got more than one ramp. Now we get the same thing here. We'll start the entrance. And is you can just go, okay, this ramp is just a straight ramp. So we can even go right to the exit. And then just drag it to rough places around. Nope, that's the wrong ramp. This is again why you do it, because it can get confusing on the diagram. Line. Entrance. Follow the shape down. This is the snake ramp, so it wiggles backwards and forwards. Add more control points as you need, but like I said before, don't go berserk. Move across. Let's add some funky music to this or something. The music is probably not the same as yours. and doing this. This is quite a potentially long process, um, depending on the ramps and what they are and how they work and all that sort of malarkey. Um, that's solid. Right, so there we've made that ramp there. Splendid. So, right, the one more thing we need to sort of discuss now is ramp ends. So, from this one here, we had another control point here. Move this so it maintains a bit of flow onto the and lock it. Now, really, what we want is this bit here is the wrong shape. So, you click this control point at the end and delete it. Stick a new ramp here, one where you want it, at the other end wherever you want it. Click on the old ramp, copy the control point, paste the control point. That now adds that latches onto that. So this is at 75. So what we want to do is we want to make the bottom width wider. So I reckon 110. No, a bit more, 120. Then you can adjust it about a bit. Wide enough. Probably needs to actually be, it's even a little bit wider than that. 125. Yeah, that's better. 125. Lock it into position. Go back to look here and go, okay, this is out a bit because you can see it's back on one side. The best way to do it really is to get this is to never move this primary one because the primary one's locked with the other one. You move the secondary one, you can move it closer, and there you go. And although when you're zoomed in, you can see this bit of an angle here and it looks a little bit weird, in reality it doesn't actually make any difference. But the second thing you want is if you click this thing here, look at real height. Remember, this is all at 75. So we want to make the bottom height 0. So now this is a ramp in, it goes all the way down here to the bottom and there. Now what we want to do at the end is, we want to put a wall, make 2 control points there, and then you make another 2 control points. So you have 6 along the top, and then make a little house for it. So that when the ball comes down here, it hits this and goes down. So what you want to do here is you want to make sure this wall is, your ramp's 75 high, ball is 50 high, so this needs to be at least 125 high. So I would make it 140 high and 70 high at the bottom. So now this will capture any balls coming into it. So what you can do here, if you want to and get fancy with it, you can make this into the same shape as the ball hole. There's advanced techniques to do with this later that we can go into. So you make these smooth so they're nice and round. Then it will capture it like that. And that will stop your ball flying out the bottom of the ramp. And then we just save it. I haven't saved it as anything. Oh no, you can't see that. Run it. And there we have our ramps. Now, obviously, because we made everything 75, they're cutting across each other. We will deal with that later to do with clearances and things. So you need to figure out or find out what ramp's higher than the other so you know which one cuts across each individual one. In this case, I would say that the left ramp is lower than the right ramp. No, it goes up higher, it goes up above. Anyway, we'll find that out by cross-referencing images. So, and that is ramps.